This video is going to be a film study look at Amik Robertson, who I think is a sneaky good signing for the Detroit Lions. Very impressed with his film. I don't pretend to have significant knowledge of his level and quality of play prior to undergoing this film study. There's so many cliches that are going to follow here. Let me apologize beforehand. I'm really not sure what else to say after watching 4 games. I'm not going to tell you about the stats. You can look them up as you wish. The guy does a lot of things well. Smaller corner, I think 5'9", 25 years old. Let's go in reverse here in terms of my intro. I won't tell you about the things he does well, first of all. Perhaps there's 2 relative weaknesses at that level, the NFL level. He's a spectacular DB, in my opinion. A few bigger tight ends have been able to work free, particularly from the slot. Mike Gesicki was one last year. I'll show you that play and one other. A couple of other times he was the force player on a run concept or even a hitch screen that the running back was able to bounce out towards the sideline. I think it's because he doesn't press forward as quickly in those situations. I'll show you some examples of him making tackles at the line of scrimmage or a tackle for loss. But in the plays that I'm describing as relative weaknesses, and what I mean when I say relative weaknesses is if you were to look at Madden ratings, you'd see a whole bunch of 86s or 88s, for example. I don't know that that's his actual Madden rating. And then these two would be like a 74 or maybe a 77. When I say relative weakness, it's relative to the other things that are strengths for him. In these situations, running backs or a receiver on a hitch screen end up bouncing outside towards the sideline for like a 5 or 7 yard gain, where Robertson's there to challenge, but didn't come forward, didn't press downhill as quickly, and those guys were able to get to the sideline for like a 5 or 7 yard gain. He still gets credit for the tackle. Those are the only complaints or things that you could look at from the film I watched anyway. Because in the 4 games I checked out, he's super competitive, extremely tough, very agile, great feet, athletic corner, even at the NFL level. When you watch his speed of play compared to other guys on the field with him, he looks faster and more agile than them. His ball skills, I mean, you have the game-sealing interception against the Packers that I'll show you later on in this video. Let me preface the video with admitting that I only watched 4 games. 3 games from early in the 2023 season, week 4, week 5, and week 6. And I picked those specifically because he played a lot of nickel against the Chargers in week 4. And then against the Packers and the Patriots, he moved to outside corner, which in my opinion is his natural position. But if you were looking for real concrete information on that, go look at, maybe Raiders content creators or something like that. And then the final one I picked is the one that I'm going to talk about at length, and that's week 16 against the Chiefs. The Raiders defense in that game was flying around, attacking. And I knew this already because scouting the Chiefs for the Ravens AFC title game against them, I looked at that game. I was like, how did someone hold them to 300 total yards? Go watch that game if you get a chance. The complete game, if you want. The Raiders' offense was inept, obviously. I think Aiden O'Connell only threw for like 62 or 63 yards, but the defense took it to the Chiefs. And it looks even more impressive now with each passing view. Prior to the AFC Championship game, I watched that game, and I was amazed and impressed with how well the Raiders identified formations and the threats that the Chiefs offered, where people lined up pre-snap, and what that threat means for the defense. Anyone trying to tell you that the Chiefs were just sloppy or not motivated is lying and inaccurate. Go watch the game yourself. The Raiders outplayed them, outcoached them. They won a game against the eventual Super Bowl champions when they only generated, the Raiders offense that is, only generated 200 yards of offense. That includes a 43-yard run by Zamir White, the running back that week. So the Chiefs defense held Las Vegas to like 3.2 yards per play, if I did my math right. Robertson and the Raiders defense matched that on that day. I intend to show you significant film from that game to prove it. Long intro here, my apologies. Did I mention that he's very good in man and zone? And he has NFL film playing outside corner and nickel. In a weird way, as much as I'd like the Carlton Davis signing, this one may be better. One thing to mention here before we get started is that Amik Robertson played almost exclusively as a right corner when he did play outside corner for the Raiders in the games that I watched. And perhaps that's because Marcus Peters, the guy who they cut later in the season, is generally been a left side corner. But if you think about the 2 signings that the Lions have made at corner in the last week, Amik Robertson, right side outside corner. Carlton Davis generally plays as a left side outside corner. This is late in the game, week 5, matched up against Watson. And this is a high level interception, if you ask me, where at some point right about here, Amik Robertson was looking in the backfield and saw that a sack was developing. I think he's got great eyes, meaning he's got great eyes to be able to adjust during the play and supreme awareness when the quarterback breaks contain. In this case, he ended up getting, quote, beat by Christian Watson for an instant and then was able to recover as Jordan Love tried to throw. I think this is a game-sealing interception there. Feel free to correct me in the comments section. So you'll see an example of what he probably saw, which is Love being flushed out here. So he was trying to adjust. He's off screen to our bottom right, obviously. Ball almost goes through his arms right here. It's actually one of the still shots for the intro of this video. It's like past his helmet. He's able to secure it. People often look for splash plays for corners. Fine, do so. You won't see as many splash plays for Robertson or Carlton Davis as maybe you'll see for other corners. But I think those things come in bunches, number one. Number two, I think they're oftentimes generally related to opportunity. Is the pass rush developed such that the corners, safeties, nickel DBs can break on the football? Amik Robertson is a guy who puts himself in that position, if you ask me. The Lions have got to improve their pass rush clearly if they want to be the total package on defense. I think they're headed there. So outside corner, some third down situations, actually 2 third downs and 1 second down. He's very good at this. You want this as a Lions fan. You want someone that can make these stops on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 against whoever the receiver is he's matched up against. In this case, it's Dobbs, another division opponent. For the Lions, I'll show you 2 examples of this one where he takes this kind of inside leverage and squares up at an angle. So kind of sounds crazy, but there's the angle of his shoulders. Perhaps that's a little bit off. My apologies. It's essentially at a 45-degree angle to where Dobbs' feet are, parallel to the line of scrimmage, if you will. And then he's able to take away a slant there and also break towards the sideline on anything. Dobbs wants to bring that route back inside. Robertson, even though he's small at 5'9", I think 190, is physical enough and strong. He's a competitor. I think I used the phrase borderline combative with Carlton Davis as a man corner. This guy looks pretty good too. That was the ref's hat being thrown down because Robertson forced Dobbs out of bounds. It was not a flag. I will show you a couple of penalties that he draws later on in the video. Here against Parker, a bigger athletic wide receiver, same technique. Going to take inside leverage, inside position, and then square up but at a 45-degree angle. Ball's thrown kind of quick. It's a 3rd and 5. Mac Jones got a clean pocket, getting rid of the ball quick, not on the same page as Parker. Clearly, this is a guy, Robertson, who's very good at this technique because once he does get an out-breaking route, and this is not exactly the same technique from him. He's up top, by the way, always going to be located on the right unless I tell you he's playing nickel, which you'll see about 7 plays later in the video. Not exactly the same technique post-snap in terms of him squaring up at an angle. He's actually at a different angle facing the quarterback and able to break on the out by Gesicki, which still does convert a first down on a 2nd and 4. I really could have probably done the Amik Robertson film study video only showing film from the Chiefs game. The only thing that would neglect is his ability to play the nickel position and some of the tackles he makes at or behind the line of scrimmage. He's located at right side corner. Again, this is 3rd possession, week 6, played outside corner predominantly from mid-season on. And they're dropping him down into the flats like a cover 2 to that side. 4 receivers to one side for the Chiefs. A one-man screen set up while you have a snag post-corner combination out of the other 2 receivers. It's cool stuff if you're able to get the ball to the running back, in this case Pacheco, with a lead blocker out there, and you have 2 other routes in the concept to that side. It's really difficult for a defense to stop. You need to have enough second-level defenders to deal with a screen from a force player standpoint, which is what Robertson is. He's fitting outside the blocker, and then the alley player is fitting inside the blocker. Robertson isn't a great tackler, in my opinion, one-on-one, but as far as part of a group effort, I think he'll get the job done. To me, that would be one of the things that's the least impressive about his game, but part of that is because his coverage skills and his awareness are so damn good. again, located at outside corner, bottom side of the screen here. Still the same possession, I think, is early in the second quarter. You got a wheel by Kelsey that doesn't threaten him at all. He's uh, quite able to keep up with receivers on verticals, post routes, deeper outs, and a tight end like Kelsey into the boundary, even though as talented as Kelsey is, does not have the ability to threaten him and force him to really turn it into fifth gear. He pretty much knew the ball wasn't coming there. Trying to show you the multitude of techniques that he plays. This is one that I think illustrates his awareness mid play. I think you've got a press bail here post snap with a man call to the top side. That's why it doesn't exactly look the same to both sides with the outside corners. Ball's almost intercepted late in the play. Kind of this pump and go by Mahomes that they tried, I think, 3 times in this game. So looking to the top side, away from Robertson, by the way, and pump fake to the receiver who gives a little stutter go. They tried to go to that multiple times against the Raiders. Didn't work in any case. I'll actually show one they tried to Robertson's side down here at the bottom in a moment. One more time on this play, making it look like press on MVS down here at the bottom. Bails out. You can see the zone turn, chest pointed towards the inside. So the stutter by MVS doesn't bother him at all. And then has the awareness mid-play to recognize I don't need to come up here to deal with MVS, the receiver located at the bottom of the screen, because I've got a slot receiver, Rashee Rice, who's working his way upfield. Ball's overthrown, almost intercepted. These are the types of plays that I think he can offer in unsettled situations when quarterbacks are able to break contain. 4th and 5. This is later in the game, by the way. I think it's 8th possession. He's up at the top side of the screen as the outside receiver. He's so good in man that one of the few times I've seen him quote beat, it's generally related to a pick, which is, depending on your opinion, 50 to 70% of the Chiefs' offense is related to pick, rub, or screen concepts where one receiver, in this case Kelsey, and he is called for this, by the way, this does go down as a penalty against Kelsey, is basically screening Robertson to allow Rashee Rice to get free. You can see the contact has knocked him off balance. He's able to recover because he's smart. He recognizes that the pick or the rub got to him. So instead of following Rice, he just goes straight up field. So that angle allows him to catch up as well as a ball that's kind of wobbly thrown by Mahomes. So you saw him for a moment there adjust his path because he recognized what Rashee Rice was going to do. Give you the end zone angle. You're not going to see the pick or rub concept off screen, by the way, obviously. But what you will see is that it's damn near intercepted by Robertson. He's a dangerous guy to deal with, even on a play when he's screened or picked, and which they did call it against Travis Kelce. This is all in the same game, and I think just gives you an idea. Robertson, for a moment, is pissed off. He thought they called it on him. Clearly, it was on the offense. Later in the game, I think we're early fourth quarter now. Ball's going to be intercepted by the Raiders, not by Robertson. He's down here at the bottom side of the screen. This is what I was talking about. Under center, little stutter go, and he doesn't fall for it at all. He's just very smooth, very smooth. And when I say he's more agile and athletic than a lot of other DBs, I'm talking about things like this. His feet are fantastic. He doesn't lose balance at all on little moves like this. He's a very smooth operator in man, if you ask me. End zone, I think he provides versatility from that standpoint, coverage versatility. And later on in the video, I'll show you how much versatility he offers, being able to play nickel whenever you want him to as well. 10 minutes left in the game here, I believe. 3rd and goal. What ends up being like a China out by Rashee Rice, it's not really intended that way. Mahomes kind of gets pushed off his spot. He adjusts well mid-play, and he's got great awareness in zone, if you ask me. Trying to illustrate that for you here with multiple plays that illustrate, if you ask me, he can play a factor on snaps where he generally isn't assigned to a particular area. He can have an impact on plays that are unsettled where quarterbacks like Mahomes or Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen are able to escape the pocket, and Robertson can put himself in the right spot to stop the play. 3 more plays from the Chiefs game, 2 of which I think illustrates his awareness. is discipline as well. A lot of times when a quarterback breaks contain or moves around in the pocket, DBs, linebackers will have their eyes averted to the quarterback and not stick or attach to their man. Amik Robertson is not one of those guys. He does a great job, if you ask me, of attaching to the receiver he's assigned to, whether it's man or whether it's zone and the quarterback extends the play, because at that point, all zone becomes man. Additionally, I'll show you a third and final play from the Chiefs scheme here where I think that Amik Robertson is trying to bait Patrick Mahomes into throwing it. Yes, you heard that right. Now, I might be wrong. You're welcome to take a look at it if you want. So this next one is going to be a sack, and he's guarding Watson up at the top side of the screen. And he's driving on an in-breaking route. And again, Mahomes is able to briefly extend the play before he's sacked by Kuntz, I think it is, 51. But we're focusing on Robertson, his ability to attach to the receiver, keep his eyes disciplined, and not leave his receiver or leave the guy he's guarding in the moment because it looks like the quarterback is about to get sacked. I'm talking about moments like this right here where he's attached to a receiver and doesn't let his eyes get averted to the quarterback, even when an athletic quarterback looks like he's getting ready to get sacked. It's called playing past the whistle, not just playing to the whistle, playing through the whistle, if you will, or playing past it. Finally, this is the one where I suspect he's trying to bait Mahomes into throwing this deep in route to Watson. It's a 3rd and 9. I think the ball is almost tipped, or perhaps it is tipped by Robert Spillane. Mahomes is pretty clean here and got to throw the ball over the top of the second level in front of the third level of the defense. Again, this is a 3rd and 9. Late second quarter or late third quarter, excuse me, I believe. And I think I would classify this as a drop cover 3, where this safety is dropping down to the hash to be the hook to curl player there. But I understand other people are not going to see a very clear delineation of the DBs, and they're not going to want to call this a cover 3. I would call it a drop cover 3, but no problem. I think he's baiting Mahomes to throw this ball so that he can break under here and try to get to it. Now, whether you agree with that part or not, for a moment, accept that he is. What does that tell you about the mentality of a guy like Amik Robertson? If you believe me for a moment that he was doing so. He's trying to bait the best quarterback in the game to throw a football. There aren't in his area, there aren't many defensive backs in the NFL, if you ask me, who would even try to do that, number one. Number two, it surprises me, based on my evaluation, that Amik Robertson is a name that I really didn't know much about 4 or 5 days ago, that I see film of it, and it kind of opens my eyes to how audacious and how brave the guy is. Didn't see very many penalties called on him in the 4 games film that I watched, but here's 2 of them lined up on a 3rd and long. I think he's trying to play a trail man technique. He's actually called for 2 penalties on this play. Offsides pre-snap and then holding Watson post-snap. I think he's intentionally playing a trail position against the vertical. This seems to be an ISO for Travis Kelce over the middle. 3rd and long against this 2-deep look. I think he's intentionally trying to get on the backside hip of Watson, and once Watson makes his break over the middle, there's clearly a hold. Probably tired of Chiefs film. My apologies, but here's another 3rd down penalty. This is against the Patriots. It's incomplete pass to Gesicki. That's not who he's guarding. Definitely holding, which elicits the stiff arm from the receiver, but the hold is called to give the Patriots a 1st down on a day when their offense really struggled. Against hitch screens or run concepts, as I mentioned in the lead-in, there's some times where perhaps he could press downhill a little sooner. Little fake RPO here to the back, Ezekiel Elliott, and then a screen out to Bourne. Robertson's involved in a tackle, but it goes down as a 9-yard gain. Against the Chiefs, to the bottom side of the screen, again, right side of the defense, which I think is where he fits in the Lions' defense structure, if you ask me. Screen to Kelce, who became unstoppable there on this play until Max Crosby got to him. You can see that there does become a time where Robertson's size or lack thereof against certain tight ends, running backs could be an issue unless there's other teammates there to help from an inside-out leverage standpoint, or like Crosby, just finish him off. Another screen, and this is one I think that illustrates what I talked about in the lead-in maybe a little bit more clearly. Hitch out here to Rashee Rice, 2-man screen. Watson with a nice block. And then because as soon as he settles his feet on some of these things, And that's where the receiver or the running back is able to bounce it outside. Now, there's sometimes where that is what you want to do. You want to settle your feet, keep buzzing them so that you can react in either way, in either direction. When he's got help to his inside and only the sideline to his outside is occasionally where you see these issues. I'll show you another one that's a run concept by Ezekiel Elliott earlier in the season. This is a 12 personnel grouping for the Patriots with the back on the same side as the two tight ends. So here's the two tight ends here. I think that's Ezekiel Elliott. Robertson is up here to the boundary. I think this is another good example of him stopping his feet at a certain point, not pressing downhill more. Some would say, well, you don't want him to sell out and make the tackle. No, but I don't want NFL athletes to be able to just run around the edge and get 7, 8, 9 yards, which has been the case at times. Now, I do think it's possible that in some of these situations I'm showing you the last 2 or 3 plays, he knows that he doesn't have help that's flowing from the inside out leverage. And that's why he settles and forces the running back to bounce it. That's also possible too. Final segment here will be a number of plays of Robertson playing the nickel position, which he played a lot against the Chargers in week 4, occasionally here against the Patriots in week 6. You can see it goes down as a sack against Cunningham, who's in as the quarterback. Here on the Patriots' 8th possession, so later on in the game, he has the athletic ability to tackle any quarterback in the league, even a guy like Cunningham, who's a better athlete, more fast twitch than a lot of prototypical quarterbacks. Significant film of him playing the nickel position in week 4, and I think it looks good. Is he going to be the nickel for the Lions? Well, the Lions have Melifonwu, they have Kirby Joseph, and they have Branch, who's a great nickel defender, if you ask me. Robertson being an outside corner who can go in there and play nickel at times, especially on third down, I think only provides more versatility for the Lions defense, and Aaron Glenn gives him more options to be unpredictable. That's why I think this is such an astute and smart signing by the Lions front office. Nickel position is generally located to the field, but I'll try to spot shadow him each time. 3rd and 5, where Herbert ends up getting sacked. And these types of routes, China in, whip routes, change of direction routes, do not bother him. When I say that he's more agile than a lot of other even DBs at the NFL level, this is what I'm describing. Whether it's a good China out or whip route or not is not my concern. I'm talking about his feet, his ability to maintain balance, not overcommit towards the sideline. I think also a part of it is recognition, understanding who the player is that can or cannot actually beat him on an out route to the sideline. Up at the top, playing nickel. He's not the targeted DB on this play, by the way. It goes complete for Gesicki on another 3rd down for the Patriots. His ability to play man coverage and stick or attach to receivers at the hip and not give them any room at all on their chosen route, to me, illustrates that, number one, he's a great athlete with really good technique, borderline great technique at times. But number 3, I think he does exquisite film study, and that reminds me of Carlton Davis a lot, not from a nickel perspective, but from a preparedness standpoint of, I recognize what the route probably is from this formation and this situation. As a nickel defender, this guy can start. Is he going to start for the Lions at the nickel against 11 personnel? No, I would anticipate that that's Brian Branch. This is another player who can go in there and give you great reps at the nickel position. That's why I think this is as good a signing as Carlton Davis, perhaps even better because you didn't trade away a third round draft pick to go get him. You guys are going to have to let me know if you're as impressed by the film as I am. Are you seeing 6 interceptions here? Well, no. You're not seeing 6 interceptions from many guys across the NFL in a given season. Geno Stone just had 7, I think, for the Ravens. 3 of those are at the free safety position on balls that are somewhat overthrown. I think when the turnovers come for this Lions team, they will come in bunches. And to me, Robertson looks like a guy who puts himself in great position on a snap-by-snap basis. When he does get beat, as I mentioned before, oftentimes it's a pick, rub, or screen concept. Here's a great example of it. Actually, this is 2 of them. The inside receiver, the number 2, goes to the top side. of Robertson, forcing Robertson to go underneath, and then the outside receiver also executes a screen. This is like an AFC West offense compilation, I guess, with the Chiefs and the Chargers doing these concepts so much. You guys are going to have to let me know if you're less impressed than I am. I think you've got a really high level coverage guy here with versatility from a coverage standpoint, man, zone, split field stuff, which I really didn't mention. Additional to that, it's someone who gives you positional versatility, being able to play outside corner and nickel. And as I mentioned twice earlier in the video, fits from a right left standpoint with Carlton Davis perfectly. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this content, this film study look at Amik Robertson's 2023 film, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it on social media to help this content get more reach.